Today on the Sound Health Podcast.
I remember I wrote my first song in grade school, and it was about all the girls who had broken my heart in grade school, and it was called She's a Big Jerk. So it wasn't like serious songwriting yet, but it was a start.
I might steal that one. She's a big jerk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was kind of an upbeat song, but then it got really slow for one verse because the one girl who like really annihilated me as a kid, and it became like a power ballad, and that's Paula, my wife.
Before we get started, I'd like to invite you to take advantage of a free resource I made for you. It's called the Sound Health Newsletter. In it, I share the latest research in music and health. Plus, you'll learn music and wellness exercises that you can use every day to feel your best. You'll also get discounts and first access to all of my products and events. Remember, it's completely free. Just come visit me at donovanhealth.com to get started today. That's donovanhealth.com. Hey there, this is Jim Donovan. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm welcoming a very special guest to the show. He's an incredible singer-songwriter, an author, and a dear friend of mine, Mr. Bill Deasy. Bill has recorded and toured nationally, both as a solo artist and with his band The Gathering Field. He's also written for other artists, including Martina McBride and Ray Cyrus. Bill's recording of Good Things Are Happening, a song he co-wrote on a trip to Nashville, became the long-running theme for Good Morning America on ABC, and he appeared in the promo spot strumming his guitar and singing. I remember seeing that, actually. It's awesome. In 2006, Bill added published author to his list of accomplishments with the release of his novel, Ransom Seaborn, which is currently being adapted for film. Bill was included in the book Pittsburgh Born, Pittsburgh Bred as one of the 500 most memorable Pittsburghers from the past 250 years. I got to check that list out. That
I don't know
sounds
what
cool.
that means, yeah.
Dude, so much good stuff. Hey, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
It is my pleasure, JD.
This is such a fun thing. Fun fact, my wife Tracy is one of Bill's biggest fans. She used to go to all of his shows throughout the clubs in Pittsburgh. She adores your music and
so
you
nice.
and your family. So this will probably be the first episode she actually listens to because that's just how she rolls. Hey, tell me a little bit about this adaptation for your novel to the film.
It started a long time ago. I wrote the novel. It's actually bizarre if I could really go into it because I started writing the novel in the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
My wife Paula and I were in Johnstown. The Gathering Field was playing the Johnstown Folk Festival, I think.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And we were just taking a walk before the gig, and I just loved to read a ton. So I just started to think like, I just had this kind of itch to maybe try. My songs were always kind of long and literary feeling.
Yeah, you're a storyteller when you.
So it kind of made sense, but I didn't really know if I could write a novel. So I started to just kind of kick around some ideas for a story, and I set it in. I went to this kind of strict college, Grove City College.
Sure.
So, and I was really a fish out of water. So I set it in a fictitious version of Grove City. And just made this really simple story about a guy. I'd also seen the name Ransom Seaborn on a tombstone in the Homewood Cemetery. And I just thought it was a cool name. And
That's
it
a
just
great
sort of
name.
stayed with me. So that's really how it started, just with that name. So I just, I kind of got an outline for a story and started to write a novel. So I spent maybe 6 months back then in the 90s writing the first draft of this novel. Yeah. Nothing ever came of it. Mm-hmm. And then I think around 2005, I found this company in Wales called Voluminous Press. And they loved it, and they just put out it's kind of like an indie label kind of thing.
Sure.
But it kind of clicked, with my audience, but also it won this award. Just got a kind of a bigger audience, and maybe sold 3,000 or something like that. But it was cool. It kind of worked. And then at some point, and that was that. And I actually wrote 2 other novels after that.
Oh wow!
But at some point, somebody said, like their brother or somebody knew somebody at a movie studio, and that would make a great movie. And I don't know if that was like a good moment or a bad moment for me, because it really sent me down the rabbit hole. And I I've literally spent about 10 years writing and rewriting. I didn't know how to write a screenplay.
Yeah.
So you can easily make it look like a screenplay because it's easy to get the soft, you can easily
format it,
and it looks like a screenplay, but it's not really a screenplay.
Right.
So I had a lot to learn. And, but of course, as you, I'm sure, understand, I kind of love that process of learning from scratch how to do something, and especially something involving writing, because I love to write. And just over time, so my first draft of the screenplay was very similar to the novel, which did not make a good movie because the character in the novel is kind of in his head a lot and it's a little kind of passive.
Interesting.
And that does not make a good movie. You need
Right.
a very active character with tons of like obstacles and a really clear goal.
Right.
So I didn't know anything like that really. So anyway, at some point, a guy I knew who liked my music in L.A. heard that I was working on the screenplay. He had a friend who's a producer in L.A. and said, you should get it to him. And I ended up becoming forming kind of a partnership with this other guy in Los Angeles whose
cool.
name's Alex Castillo. Mm-hmm. And he has just, through like tough love and like just really brutal guidance,
Yeah.
he has, he's really been, he's just always so honest with me. And we've just worked and worked and worked and worked. And I've written and rewritten. There's so many times I should have given up on it, or when I thought it was great, and then we would send it out for coverage, this kind of thing where it's like an industry thing where you just get this harsh critique. And for years and years, it would just come back. So I would think I cracked it, and then it would come back basically just saying, this really sucks.
Yeah.
So but for some weird reason, I just kept at it. And I finally kind of broke through. And I think maybe like 3 or 4 years ago is when it started to I started to know that something was right about it.
Wow.
And it's still, just more and more people are reading it as we go. And we've done table readings in Los Angeles, a bunch in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to do kind of a staged reading this coming February in Los Angeles.
Oh,
and
nice.
So it's getting to be, I just feel it. I don't want to jinx it or anything, but I have a feeling it's kind of getting some traction. So it still just shows you that there's no such thing really as an overnight success. So it might feel like that if it ever gets made, but it will have taken me about 12 years.
And I like that we're talking about it now so that when it does go,
you are going to.
Like I say, well, we already knew it because we were talking about it beforehand.
Right, exactly. Yep. So,
but I love that you're tenacious.
I am, but only about some things. So my wife, I'm sure, wishes I was tenacious about other things.
Yeah.
But with something like this, I'm just like a dog with a bone.
Yeah.
Something, especially when I just have this sense that I can do that. There are lots of things I don't have that sense about, but writing in the screenplay was pretty fascinating, different form.
Right.
A novel is so kind of long, you have a lot of freedom and it's just kind of forgiving. And a screenplay is very economical with language. And you have to be very active and visual.
Yeah.
Completely. And you can't you can never repeat things. Anything you have in a screenplay has to have a reason to be there. If a guy's wearing a red coat, you better have a reason that he's wearing a red coat. Or, anything you see has to come back or whatever. So, and I just like that. I just love the challenge of being efficient with words. I even like that in songwriting too.
Yeah, you kind of have to be to a point.
Yeah,
right?
So it's actually it's funny because screenwriting to me is more similar to songwriting probably than to novel writing.
So do you think that having done this process, this years-long refinement process in this whole other mindset, have you noticed that it's affecting your songwriting? Have you written much between time periods here?
Yes, I have. Until recently, I have generally been very prolific and put records out every 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, that's great.
But not the past couple of years. But I noticed, yes, I've gotten a little more economical. I almost kind of miss the. Sometimes I try to kind of go back to where, when I was kind of knew less about songwriting.
Yeah.
And would just write just these wild, long, crazy things. And but generally, I think it's had a good effect on my songwriting. And it just makes you just really strive for simplicity.
Yeah.
And clarity. And that's kind of, but I've just kind of always tried for that, but get a little better all the time.
It makes sense. And I think one of the themes I'm noticing when I interview people is that each person seems to be in love with process.
Yes.
We're in the process, and I want to wake up and I want to do the thing. And if people like it, that's a nice bonus. And of course I love it when they do, and it gives me motivation. But I have to.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, it's like you're compelled.
Yeah, the process is so satisfying and so not like thrilling, but I don't know. It's just funny to compare like the different kind of buzzes you get from like the creativity. Like performing is such a different thing, but I can't, and I love it. And you can't really beat the rush of an audience and all that stuff. But it's really not better. It's just different than the rush I get from finally knowing I wrote a scene right, or or just did a line of dialogue or anything, any kind of writing. Just writing to me is very kind of special.
You can see it right away. You can read it. You can look at it. You can sit with it. The show, it's fleeting.
Yes, and that's what's great about that. But
it's there and it's awesome, and then it's done.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and what I love about live music is that you don't know what's going to happen. I love that feeling of like you're standing with your band behind, backstage, and it's like we're about to go out there, and we really don't know exactly. I mean, you kind of have an idea, but it's never exactly what you thought it was going to be. Mm-mm. And that's so cool. And writing, alone in a room, be it a song or whatever, is it's intimidating in a different way.
Right.
Like I'm kind of afraid of a blank page. That intimidates me. And I still struggle with like kind of feelings of I can't do that. I can't do this. You really have to, same with performing too. You just have to overcome this sort of inner hurdle of like, I don't know.
It's like the inner bully.
Yeah, exactly. Saying you're really not good enough to do that. You shouldn't do this. And I still have that with songwriting and everything.
Yeah. What do you do for yourself? You're staring at the blank page. Like, what do you do?
Well, I drink more coffee, and I've just learned, I guess really, I've learned to be so forgiving and kind of compassionate with myself, and just have freedom, and just know that you're going to write so many bad things, not bad things, but so many things that don't work.
Right.
And that's totally just part of the deal.
You have to.
Yeah. So, and I've gotten to a place after doing it for 30 years or whatever, just like that I'm so incredibly comfortable with my own language and my own, just kind of what I want to hear. I don't really know how I get over that. I mean, maybe that's part of what I like about it, even the battle, that inner battle with the bully in me.
Yeah.
That's saying you can't do it.
And yet I'm hearing you say that you have to be compassionate with yourself, almost like you would with one of your kids.
Exactly, yeah.
Like they show you the picture that they just drew, and like, we're putting that thing on the refrigerator.
Yeah, right.
No matter what the thing is. Yeah. We love that, and if we could do that for ourselves, how much more would we try?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have early memories from childhood when you started to think, this music thing, I like to do music. I don't know how it's going to happen. Do you have memories of this?
Absolutely. Incredibly vivid memories. I remember, I think on my 7th birthday, I had a party with friends. And I remember, maybe I'm making this all up, but I remember being in the basement of our house in Penn Hills.
Okay.
And somebody gave me an Elvis Presley record. Maybe my parents did. And it was called Legendary Performer Volume 1. And the first song I heard, I think, was That's All Right, Mama. And it was like heroin or something going into my blood. As a little kid, I just knew that right then, I knew I want to be Elvis. Like, that's what I want.
That's it.
So I really honestly feel like I knew right then. And then
just flip the switch.
It just flipped a switch. And then every single day I would just kind of race home from school and I would listen to Elvis and I would rock on my bed and I would learn every Elvis song. And every Saturday my dad would take me to this store in Penn Hills called Grant's, and we would buy a different Elvis single. Like, that's how long ago it was.
Yeah,
but there were still singles. And I just remember like Hound Dog and Don't Be Cruel and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just like lost my mind to Elvis. And then I'd watch all his terrible movies and everything. But Elvis was my guy. And then in 3rd grade, because of Elvis, I got a guitar and again, it was for Christmas. And then I was kind of off to the races.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing a night of Elvis songs? Have you already done it?
No, I've never done that. And I was just thinking about it. I was at a party recently for some reason, and someone played Elvis's live version of CC Rider, where he does like the theme, the Space Odyssey thing.
Oh,
That's how he used to start his concerts, like with that, is that what it's called? Like,
I need to listen to that.
But it would start with that, the arena. And then I saw Elvis. My first concert was New Year's Eve.
Oh my God.
His last New Year's Eve, he played Pittsburgh. And I was with my dad and my brother.
Wow.
Because I had to go. There was no question about it. And so the whole place would go down and you'd hear the theme from 2001 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Then it would bust into CC Rider as he went to like every corner of the stage. And like, I don't know, like he was a heavyweight fighter. And but he was awesome. And so that just kind of lit me up.
Wow. What do you think it was or is about that music?
That's a great question. Oh, but you were asking me about Elvis. So I heard CC Rider recently, and I thought, man, I want to. I was thinking I want to call Randy Bauman and ask him to let me do that for like a ramble or something. Do CC Rider with horns and everything. But I never. I've sung a song here and there, but I've never. Luckily, I have an older brother who liked really cool music. Yeah. So Elvis kind of lit me up to sing for people.
Yeah.
But then, like, I got into, like, I remember Crosby, Stills and Nash. Their first record was super crucial to me, like Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Mm-hmm. Just like where you start to, like, listen to music like it's a college course or something when you're 13. But you're, like, hearing harmony and lyrics. And so my brother liked them and Neil Young and Jackson Browne and things like that. He loved Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen. So just different things. Luckily, thank God he wasn't into like Barry Manilow or anything, because that kind of set me on my path.
So he was older than you.
He was older than me, and he just had this great record collection. And we shared a bedroom, and I would just listen to his records all the time.
So many people had that experience of the older brother. For me, it was I had older cousins.
Yeah,
and they would play Rod Stewart and the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and all this and AC/DC. And I was like, what is all this?
Yeah.
I've never heard this before. This is amazing.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, it just made me think, like, how fun would it be, to do a show where you do a set of your originals and the second set is Elvis Time.
Yeah. I should do something like that.
I think it would just be fun.
I don't know if my voice totally suits Elvis songs, but I'm sure it could. Yeah.
Do Bill Deasy's version of it.
Yeah, right.
Your voice is freaking amazing. You kidding me?
Oh, thanks.
Seriously. It's so fun to hear about how people get sparked.
Yeah.
About it. And was there a time where you started to think, I want to start writing my own stuff? Like, when did that happen? For
sure. It was mostly because of the kind of music I was listening to. Once you hear, like, I really love, like, Stephen Stills and just certain songwriters. Yeah. I just kind of resonated with me. And it was just a completely natural progression for me to go from singing. Like, I got the feeling of people reacting to me singing. Mm. And that was very exciting to know, like, I could sing to a crowd of people, like, in church or whatever. I remember I sang at a funeral when I was, like, in 5th grade. And
sure.
Just like, people just really reacted to the performance or whatever it was. And but then I remember I wrote my first song in grade school, and it was about all the girls who had broken my heart in grade school, and it was called She's a Big Jerk. So it wasn't like serious songwriting yet, but it was a start.
I might steal that one. She's a big jerk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and one of the it was kind of an upbeat song, but then it got really slow for one verse because the one girl who, like, really annihilated me as a kid, and it became like a power ballad. And that's Paula, my wife. She was the biggest jerk.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and now she's my wife.
Now she's your wife, and
crazy.
And you can return the favor, I guess.
Yep, you never know. Right? Exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you were writing early.
In college, I joined this other guy, and we became like an acoustic duo. We played all original music. Mm-hmm. So that was my first, I guess, I don't know if you'd call that professional, but we played every Thursday where people paid to cover and stuff, and it became this big deal where we were. But it wasn't until my 20s that I feel like I got better at it.
Yeah, it's like you have to start somewhere, and you get the thing moving.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it does its thing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So when you were in college, that's when it felt like you were doing it was more real?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and I knew, when it came time to, like, go to graduate school or set up job interviews or whatever, I never did that. I graduated, and then I just moved back with my parents, and I started just writing and recording on a 4-track all the time. And then I think that's when I transitioned into, like, a serious songwriter. And I was really into people like, I love this guy named John Hyatt, who's a great,
sure.
But his songwriting was kind of something I strove to emulate.
Yeah.
And people like that. And Jackson Browne, I love, like, Jackson Browne has a record called Late for the Sky. Mm-hmm. That is probably my all-time favorite record.
Nice.
And I still wasn't, I wasn't quite there yet as a writer, but I was getting there.
And Jackson Browne's such a beautiful storyteller, and his voice is just so smooth, and it's like he just draws you in the whole time.
Yeah, and he's perfect for, like, wallowing. I was a wallower. I was a melancholy junkie.
Yeah,
and so he would just, like, feel bad and listen to Jackson Browne.
said this was easy, and if they did, they lie. We're not hurting for reasons, for every tear we cry. We can't say that we're sorry.
When you go into songwriting mode, I'm interested to know, like, where do those first ideas start to show up? You have certain places or times that ideas drop in more than others?
Yeah, I think I'm most creative in the early morning. And I get up at maybe like 5:30 every morning. And just like, no, I don't sit with a guitar every morning, but that's kind of when I'm most connected.
Yeah.
Like this morning, for example, I was just having this, I haven't written a song in a while. I was remembering my wife and our honeymoon was in San Francisco. And I remember driving on Highway 1.
Oh, yeah.
In the night. And she like fell asleep. And I was listening a Bruce Springsteen record called The Ghost of Tom Joad. It just come out. And I was listening to that song. And I listened to that song in my office at where I work this morning. I was just remembering Highway 1. And I was sort of like longing for the innocence of our relationship, or, just kind of when you're just at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's all out in front of you. And it was just like, so I started to think Highway 1. I know there have been a million songs probably with that highway in it, but I was thinking that could be a good title. So that'll percolate in my head, and it could be months.
Yeah.
But just the title, the idea, and I'll just start to get a feel for it. And one thing that is definitely, in my early songwriting, I would write lyrics, and then I would write music. I would kind of force the lyrics into music. I haven't done that in a million years. So my songwriting is completely sitting with a guitar, and the melody finding is the same as the lyric finding. It's all one thing. And I find that the songs to me are much more organic and feel a little more like you're finding them in the ether. When they all come out as a melody and the words start to kind of like, it's a melody, and it's like getting comfortable singing it and finding the right voicings on the guitar and everything. And then then words start to come. And I'm really not as literary or whatever as I am as a songwriter. I'm very I like kind of more impressionistic lyrics too, where there's a story there, but it's not like overly spelled out. So there's a lot of room for the listener to inhabit it in their own way.
It's not Jack and Diane.
No, yeah. Although that's a good song.
It's a great song, yeah.
But yeah,
it's not like line by line the story. Like you have to like feel into the words to get some of the meaning, and you get to translate it as the listener to what you think it is.
Yeah. Like, it's interesting when I think of kind of our biggest song with the Gathering Field was Lost in America.
Snow on the railroad tracks, dogs in the moonlight, stoned out on Kerouac, trying to get it just right. If on in a dim lit room rings out forever, in a time that was still too soon. But why should he care? He had a rambling soul. He drank a bottle of cheap wine, turned up his collar to the cold, and waited. He waited for his time.
And that's a very simple melody. I wrote it with zero labor. It was like, that was one that just kind of like came through me. And I remember I wrote it one day, and we played it. We had a steady Thursday night gig at Nick's Fat City at the time, and we played it that night. And we sound checked it. I kind of showed it to them, and and it just like happened. And then we ended the set that night with it, and you could just tell from the very first minute that was the song.
Yeah.
And but the lyric on that is like, it tells a story. It's like painting a picture, but it's not overly specific. There are some details, like he's drinking a bottle of cheap wine and things like that. But but they're just, I don't know, it's just kind of cool. Like, I don't even know how I wrote that.
But it's not like a direct message.
Yeah.
It's like it is a message,
Yeah.
but the listener still has to
It's weird.
feel into it.
It's interesting. I think it's kind of fun to contemplate it a little bit. Like I'm thinking of that, for some reason, I'm thinking of that song, like a waitress in Tennessee said he looked like Jesus. That's very specific, but that never happened to me or anything. But it's just like, I don't know, just, and then he silenced her raging sea and walked out the door. And it's really about a guy, that song is kind of about what I think of I was, which is a little bit of a poser. He's kind of like pretending to be so deep and tortured and sensitive. And I don't know, it's all kind of an act.
Interesting.
So like I wrote a lot of songs like that where I was sort of hiding behind the song to like expose myself in some way, but in a kind of a cowardly way behind the song.
But still bringing it out.
Yeah, true.
For yourself.
Yes, for myself, sure.
Here's how I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I get to do that because I'm writing.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah.
If you want to do it, write your own.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the song I remember hearing the most whenever we've done things together. It just reaches out to you wherever, if I'm in a club or Heartwood Acres, any of those places I've seen you, it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
And everyone just like,
It's so nice.
They're
yeah.
right to it. It's beautiful.
And I know you relate to this, but just the feeling of having lots of people singing that song. I just remember times where it just lifted me up so high to hear like just how people liked it.
Yeah, the resonance.
Yeah, really. If you could know why that happens, you could do it all the time, but you just can't predict it. And I don't know. Like I don't know if that's my best song I've ever written, but I don't know. It might be. But it's just like it's kind of bizarre. It's mysterious. It's powerful.
It's like part of the parts that we don't get to know about, I guess.
Yeah.
But you too does.
Yeah.
And Springsteen, he gets to know about it.
Yeah, right.
But I think, just knowing, what I've heard and read about those artists is that they would probably just bounce back, just keep writing.
Yeah.
Just keep writing, and never stop writing.
Yeah, that would be, and that's my advice, I think, to most people. Just write and write and write so much that you get so fluent in your own heart, in your own language, that it just starts to flow out of you. And some of it's good and some of it's bad, but you just keep letting it all flow.
Yeah. Is the process between novel writing and songwriting, like, does it come from a similar place? Like, do you get inspired in a similar way, or is there some differences there?
Similar. It all comes from the same pool, the same kind of reservoir of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised, actually. Writing a novel was a little more musical than I would have anticipated. And I can remember, especially like with the few passages every now and then, where you kind of trip into something, and then your writing is like almost like a performance. You almost feel like you're observing it too, and I'll be like, I just remember a couple of times like where I would kind of lose my breath as I was writing sentences that I knew were like kind of just coming out of me.
Yeah.
And like the very last couple pages of Ransom Seaborn, the novel, I remember just kind of like flew out of me, and I just knew, like, I don't know, it was like I don't know if I was crying, but it was like it was just felt real cathartic.
Yeah.
Like songwriting and performing and all that can. So it's really all the same stuff. Screenwriting, I guess, is different because that's a little more of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And just a different kind of challenge. I mean, it's creative, and I actually I do get the same kind of buzz every now and then from a scene in the movie thing.
Do you have those days? I'm sure you have these days where you feel blocked.
Oh man, yeah. Lately, especially, I'm really struggling right now. And today, I played guitar for maybe like an hour earlier today, and just like trying to get it going.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel too, I get stuck in certain like guitar tunings, and I'm just so tired of my own melodic instincts and things. Luckily, not too often in my career have I had that happen, but it's been a while since I've written a song that I would be dying to play for people.
Yeah.
Like, I know a song is pretty good if, like, every time I pick up my guitar, I just want to play it, just by myself.
Yeah.
And I haven't had that in a little while.
What are some things that you do when things just feel like, all right, I feel stale, I'm pissed at this?
Yeah.
Like, any tricks that you play on yourself?
I just have to be patient,
Yeah.
And I guess I have to give myself the time to do it. A lot of it is just life.
Right.
You kind of...
Life is big right now.
Yeah, you switch what you're focusing on. I probably have to make kind of an intention, like to say, I really want to keep doing this, so, and I actually have enough songs probably for a new record right now, but
almost like doing push-ups, like you gotta just keep doing the push-ups.
Exactly, yeah.
Otherwise.
But then it's like when I think of a few years ago, I made a record with Jake Hanner called Timeless Things. And that was like such a beautiful process. And the song, it was some of my favorite songwriting in my whole career.
Wow.
And like the last song on that record is called The End of the Record Song. And I can remember just sitting, like kind of finding that as I played it and sang it. And I don't know, man, it's such a big kind of mysterious thing once it happens. And yet you can't predict it and you can't plan for it.
Right.
And at least I can't. I know some people who can. Like I think I talked to Joe Grishecki once, and I think he sort of just says, I'm going to write a record now. You know what I mean? It's like he can do that. And I think there are people that can do that. I've just been so prolific really in general that I've never had to like make time to say I'm going to write for these 3 weeks or whatever. So anyway, it's just it's an ongoing process.
Like a moth who haunts a long extinguished flame, but the light is gone and can't recall his name. But he's such a stubborn old dive bomber, he only wants to gaze upon her once again.
You and I are friends with Chuck Olson.
Yes.
Who he was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he said this thing. He says so many deep things that just blow my head apart. But the big one in that interview was, he said, life is going to bully you.
Yeah.
It's going to be the bills. It's going to be the shuttling kids around. It's the laundry. It's all this stuff. And he, as a 65-year-old man with grown kids, giving us advice saying, you just have to make it a point that you carve out this slice for yourself where your work gets to exist. And he's right. I mean, there's just so many things clawing at attention, but this is part of who we are. We have to feed that thing.
No, I know. And the extra wrinkle though is like the economics of it. In a way, it's like, does it make sense to spend any money to make a record? No, not to be so practical about it. It was just like, but you know what I mean? Like the model is so bizarre now, and you just can't really make a ton of. You can maybe break even on if you spend like $3,000 making a record.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's just a hard puzzle to solve. But that's beside the point. I still have to just write songs because that's who I am. So it's like to what Chuck said. I think I have to. I give myself excuses to kind of like shy away from it, and I got to stop.
Yeah, I've done it too, over and over again. I had a 10-year excuse in between when I left Rusted Root and when I started writing for Sun Kings.
Yeah,
and my excuse was, well, my musical life is over.
Yeah,
and I think that part of my life is finished. And I couldn't figure out why I felt so freaking irritated for a decade.
Yeah,
like I had just this constant, like, awful mood. And, part of it was, being depressed about leaving this dream.
Yeah.
But the other part was that I wasn't flexing that part of my muscle.
Yeah.
And it was actually in the room that we're recording right now. I called Sean one day. I said, listen, I'm going to make a record. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it has to happen. And it might take 5 years. And it did. It took 5 years. 7? Sean's like has all these fingers up. No, it might have been more like 7. He was a therapist to me, and I've struggled in the booth, song after song after song after song, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But when I started again, that's when I started to feel more myself again.
Yeah.
I had to extract myself for 3 hours a month from my house to come in here.
Yeah.
And that's all I had for a couple of years, 3 hours a month. I recorded the first record that way.
That's interesting. That's pretty fascinating. That's cool. And now, like, I admire you, and I see you mostly when you're performing.
Yeah.
And you just seem to be coming from such an open-hearted, like, authentic place. It's like, and it's admirable and it's inspiring. So it's like, it's cool that that's where it started, like in a kind of place of struggle. And and maybe frustration and whatever, but just like to where you've come is pretty cool.
And I think a lot of people, even people listening right now, like we've got that inner irritation, like that just pokes saying, come on, you know you should be doing this.
Yeah.
You know you should be doing this. Come on.
Yeah.
And then my rational mind goes, no, I'm not doing that. I don't have time for that shit. And this is, I got to make some money. I got to pay these bills. I got to on and on and on. BS.
Yes.
Anyway, there's something to this creative thing.
Yeah, there sure is.
It feeds us in a way that nothing else does.
Yes.
One of the things I try to do on this podcast is like to encourage people that don't consider themselves to be creative to try.
Yeah, right. What's the worst that can happen? And it's just it's so therapeutic, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like just to sit and sing, let alone like singing through microphones and stuff, like singing and like making loud music in front of people is amazing. Oh, yeah. But even just like singing by myself, it's just it's the best way I know to kind of release demons and things.
Right.
So it's like, that's what I have to do. Although I've been having an interesting battle where I'm struggling just with my whole body of work. I hate to even say that phrase because it sounds kind of pretentious, but like just the
what you do have one.
Yeah, I mean I've written and recorded just tons of music, so it's hard to know how to relate to it. And some of it I realize now was me sort of like pretending like I knew more than I did, and I don't know, like I feel just kind of conflicted in some ways. I'm a little disconnected from my own body of work. Some of it.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of like, I'm just in a little bit of a dark pathway here and I think, I still love performing and it all kind of clicks when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But I just got to switch on the light again and kind of get back on point.
Yeah, it's interesting, like looking back at all of the earliest things that I've recorded, that you've recorded, like how can you know at that time?
Yeah.
When I look back, I'm like, I didn't know even a tenth of what I know now.
Yeah.
And I was, very naive. And I'm at the point now where I can look at that and go, you know what? That was a good thing to be.
Yeah,
it was good to be naive. Like there's something about that it affected the music in that way.
Yeah.
Or, there was, I've written these songs that are really, really dark and angry that I don't feel anymore. I can't sing them because I'm not in that spot. But at the time, that needed to happen.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Like it's a snapshot of all this.
Yeah,
all this stuff.
I guess if you look at it that way. Although I'm just realizing that some of my snapshots were a little doctored.
Sure.
That I was sort of playing the part of a spiritually kind of curious man, like kind of honestly struggling and whatever. That was kind of my thing.
Sure.
And that's what's fueled my music. But I just, in some ways, I realized I wasn't. Just recently, I've had kind of a little bit of a crisis where I just realized that I wasn't as far along as I thought I was, and that I was kind of conning myself and my audience maybe in a way. Not really, but you know what I mean?
Not really, right.
And I'm being a little too hard on myself, but it's just like I'm navigating this interesting terrain now where like I have to feel like it's okay for me to sing those songs because some of them were insightful.
Yeah.
A lot of them were and kind of meant a lot to people. And I just had to know what they meant to me and what they mean to me now. I
think it makes good sense, and I think that every year that goes by with life happening, we look at all that stuff with a different lens.
Yeah.
Having personally been through near-death stuff this year, I look at everything with a completely different lens.
Yeah.
One of the gifts of that experience was that I am very forgiving of everybody.
Yeah.
Including myself, especially myself.
Yeah.
Because I know for sure that I am finite. I know it for sure.
Yeah.
So for whatever seconds I have left here, I just want to be in that light spot.
Yeah. That's good.
Because what there isn't anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. This is it. Yeah.
This is the whole thing. But yeah, my personal opinion, Bill, and you're being way too hard on yourself because your stuff it's beautiful.
And I feel it.
Yeah.
Some of the lyrics, I was singing how I wanted to be. I was singing who I wanted to be.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? I know, you're right. And I thought I was closer to that than I was at the time. And I was sort of like a little bit of a pretender, but not really.
What
was
if,
my best self, I think.
What if your recognition of that is catapulted you to understanding that is who you are becoming.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it'll all, I think it's all going to have a happy ending, but it's just like, I'm just a little confused.
Yeah.
And, but that's part of the fun.
Be a fun song to write about.
Yeah, for sure.
Like go into that spot.
Yes, I will.
Are you all listening out there to this? Do you hear what's happening here? Like we get in the muck on this stuff.
Yes, muck is the right word.
And the muck is real and it's deep, and sometimes it feels like it's drowning us. And you sit with it and you wallow, I think is the word that you used. Like we got to wallow in this stuff, and then turn it around in your hand and like look at it from the other angle and talk to other people and see if something can start to shake loose.
Yeah, that's good.
Because that's what we're here for. That's what we do for each other. Is we start to bounce this stuff back and forth, and all of a sudden there's a new perspective, and then creativity starts again. And in that is a ton of healing.
Yes, for sure. And like I was just, for some reason I flashed on the Gathering Field played a show recently, and and we played this Van Morrison song that I've sung 10 million times called Sweet Thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's a kind of an improvisation type song. That's literally never the same twice. I mean, I would guarantee that in my whole life, I know I've never sung the same exact melody twice on that song.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And Dave Brown just goes someplace. Dave is such a, you know.
Oh,
that,
I
right?
know Dave very well.
Dave is such a, but you know like how good he is.
He's magnificent.
He's like such a deep player. But that particular night we played Sweet Thing, and he did this amazing solo, and then at the outro, I always ad lib in different ways.
Yeah.
And I started to just sing these lyrics and this melody that I wasn't expecting, and it just kind of lifted up, like blew the roof off. And it's just like, so I'm not so hard on myself that can't happen. Right. But it's just like,
and that you can't recognize it.
Yeah, right. So I just need to kind of start to live in that place more.
Especially given what we were talking about earlier with, as a creative, our old systems of making a living have evaporated.
Yes.
And that there's a whole new model that is emerging that we here in midlife are trying to understand.
Yeah.
And see how it works. On top of all that creative stuff is the new thing that's emerging that we just have to understand and find our spot in all of that. And it takes time. I remember coming back into this a couple of years ago, and I thought I could plug in my stuff into what used to be, and there wasn't anything there. It had evaporated. It was all gone.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. Although you're interesting because your live experience was always going to be at the core of what you're doing, really. So that doesn't really change. I mean, I think a lot changes around it, but it's still guys on a stage, a band on a stage and people hearing it. And just the communal feeling of, especially your music has that real, just a communal sense.
Yeah, we want people to be up in our faces with us and right around us, moving around, dancing around.
So at least, luckily, your kind of music really translates to any model, truly, because you can't. That's one thing you can't digitize or
the experience,
force it out of existence. Yeah, the experience. Yeah,
the same is true for your music. It puts you in a spot that, you can listen to it on headphones, but when you feel a real guitar coming at you and you see men and women on stage like vibing with each other and having eye contact, like that's an energy.
Yeah, right.
And
you can't duplicate it.
And that in the improvisation you were talking about on the Van Morrison song, you can listen to that, but to see it live, like for sure, is a different experience.
Yeah, so that's our saving grace.
Yeah.
But I guess, you and I, where we are in our career, like in our lives, kind of, it's that the trick then is, although maybe our lives get back to a place where we have more freedom again, and we can play the weekend gigs in Rochester, New York, or whatever, that kind of stuff, because it's easy to kind of slip into like a 90s, sort of a semi-personality in Pittsburgh who can sing at an all-star jam or whatever, and kind of just do that kind of stuff and not stop being like an alive artist who's always changing.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
I think we need to be allergic to that.
Yes.
And break out in hives.
Yes, let's
when we
do
start
it.
to think that way.
Let's make a pact right here.
Shoot ourselves with an EpiPen and go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's good. I'm going to declare that right now.
Declare no. Let's hold each other accountable to never do that.
Yeah. When
you're recording, how do you know when it's done? You have a sense of it?
There are some songs that I just write forever, like, and I'll rewrite a lyric. Sometimes I'll just know there's something not quite 100% right, but I'll still record it.
It's more of a feel thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's like that song, I'm just thinking of that song I mentioned earlier called The End of the Record Song.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just so completely satisfying of a creative process, including the sense when it was over that it was over, like I had done it. I don't know. There's something about it. I'll just send you the song.
Oh, I'd love to hear it, definitely.
There's just something about it. It's like, I guess it's a kind of vague feeling, but there is a sense of satisfaction, I guess, or just like this inner peace, like a click that something clicks inside where it's done.
Maybe is it kind of like a friendship? Like when you have a friendship with somebody. And you know when you don't totally jibe with somebody. Is it like
right.
that?
That's good. Yes, it is.
Interesting.
And I remember like a Jackson Browne interview where he said, good songs are forgiving, or songs are forgiving. And I think that's true. Like, so it's not so rigid. You know, there oftentimes there really are 4 right answers for a melody or a lyric.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But although the way I write, I'm so like sound based. Like I'm just, even lyrically, even though I seem like a word obsessed kind of songwriter, I'm more like a sound obsessed. Like, and so the vowels and everything are as important to me as the lyrics. Though I would never like let it be nonsense. But
like the way you approach
my goal
E and the A.
Yeah, my goal is for the words and the sounds of the words and the feel of the melody and the chords and everything to kind of like become this one thing that sort of like finds its right frequency, you know, or whatever. It's emotional vibration.
It's like a resonance, and like it hits you a certain way or it doesn't.
Yeah, and then when I know it's all kind of in sync with that, then it's forgiving, and there's a little leeway probably in some choices within that. But only once I know I'm in the safe. And so many songs I never play for anybody, or never make it there.
Yeah. So the end of the record song has that.
It has all that, yeah. So
I can't wait to hear it.
Well, whether it's just a mellow, and it's an interesting song too because it's exploring songwriting in a way. The song starts off in the third person, like a moth that haunts a long extinguished flame, but the light is gone and can't recall his name. But it's all he. It's all he. So I'm talking about him. Mm-hmm. And then there are these little kind of bridge sections, and after the second bridge is. It's about me wallowing in self-pity as a kid and listening to these records. Yeah. At the end of the record song, I would always seek out the last song. Like it seemed like people I like Jackson Browne, the last song on the record would always be this kind of like epic, sad, whatever with the symphony and where they bring it all out. The wallowing, just perfect. And so I was thinking about how the guy I was like wallowed in this painful place and just kind of like I wanted to just stay there. And then the song is ultimately about becoming happier and kind of lightening up a little bit, and the process of stepping out from behind these story songs, like Lost in America and those songs.
Right.
So then the second bridge part is, but then I changed a couple pronouns, put a few good years behind me. So suddenly it was in the first person. Uh-huh. And though the song is still a slow one, it doesn't need a symphony. Because with you nearby, I'm always smiling or something. Yeah. And then the last verse is first person. And it's very direct.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's me trying to like say, this has been me all, I don't know, it was some kind of.
You're pulling yourself into it.
Yeah, like, and I'm not hiding anymore. So kind of, and I'm feeling better.
That's strong. I love that.
Yeah. So, and plus it's just a cool, like Rob James plays electric guitar on it and Noah Minarek.
Oh, sure.
But the two of them were just like, and I wanted this kind of like David Lindley from old Jackson Browne record sound, and there's like this kind of pedally feel to the whole thing, and it's just cool.
In 6 episodes on this podcast, Rob James's name has been mentioned in all of them. So we're gonna have to have Rob come on.
Rob is the man.
He's like the mystery podcast guest.
Yeah, not surprised.
We have so many gifted friends.
Yeah,
and the scene here in Pittsburgh, a lot of people don't realize it's so rich. It's got amazing rock people and great jazz people, soul people.
Yeah.
It's so much good stuff.
And when you mentioned to me what Scott Blacey talked about with he and I kind of affecting each other, it made me think of how cool just the 90s were in Pittsburgh because there wasn't a hyper competitive, there's probably like a tiny bit of that, but there really wasn't that sense of like, I don't want you to succeed because I'm afraid it will keep me from succeeding. It was like the opposite. And I remember, like, because Dave Brown had, I don't know if he engineered or he did what for Cruel Sun.
Yeah, he was a producer on our first indie record called Cruel Sun.
And so, like, I was just thinking of all the ways we affected each other. And Liz Berlin sang on all of our records. Scott Blasey sang on all of our records. Jim DeSpirito played on some things because he and Dave Brown go way back.
Yeah,
they're just kind of like, but then Rusted Root, because you guys let us open for you all kinds of cool places, like all around the country. Even we opened for you.
Yep.
And it's just cool, just how everybody was helping everybody, and it was just like such a. I think that was part of the magic of that time, was that we were all sort of inspired by successes of the other bands.
Right.
Like you guys were just blowing up, and we were just fuel for us.
It's a city, but it's a small city.
Yeah.
And like, everybody.
Yeah.
We know each other's business, and for better or worse.
Yeah.
Man, you're right. It's nice. It's nice that we went that way. I know that there are people that listen to this show who are songwriters, or people who might want to try.
Yeah.
Like writing, maybe they wouldn't write a full song, but maybe they would just start to write some lyrics.
Yeah.
You have any advice you could give somebody like that? Like, just starting out, like, how could they get started? Like, what could they do today to just get the ball rolling a little bit, like we've been talking about?
I think it's all about freedom and just giving yourself the license and just, I don't know, there's no pressure whatsoever, and there can't be a bad result from it. At the worst, you write something that you never show another living soul.
Right.
But then maybe 3 days from now, you write something else, and then it's like, well, maybe I'll show my wife that. Or it's like suddenly it's something. And for me, it's just about getting comfortable and having fun, and just like, but just freedom. It's all about freedom.
Yeah.
And to me, self-consciousness is the enemy. Like in recording and in everything, it's like the more we do it, the less self-conscious we are, and the better it gets.
Right.
So just skip all the agony that we went through, and just don't have self-conscious. Who cares? Nobody cares. No one's watching. There's no place for vanity here.
Right.
Just be creative, because it's good for your soul, and see what happens. And maybe maybe you'll end up forming a band, or maybe you'll just end up writing poems for the rest of your life that no one sees. But what's the difference, really?
It's true, and it harkens back to what we started with earlier in the process of our interview, which was letting yourself be in love with the process.
Yes.
And one of the mistakes I've made over and over again is writing or creating to turn it into something, like that it has to be something that makes money, or that somebody sees, or I get approval from, or blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is great. And as a professional, I do that.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is the thing, which is start from a place of, I'm not going to judge this. I'm just going to make something.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, for sure. And even for you and I, where we are in our careers, or what, we still have to do it ultimately for the joy of it.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like the more joyful and unself-conscious what we do is, the more likely it is to like make money, or to lead to gigs and all that stuff. It's like people know when you're being real.
Yeah.
Or when some real emotion is being shared in some vulnerable, exciting way. And so anyone can do that really wherever they are.
That's the beautiful thing, I think, about creativity, is that we all, or at least most of us, I should say, get what it feels like to be angry. Yeah. Or we get sadness or grief, or whatever the feeling is. Start there. Yeah. Start with something that made you joyful or pissed off or something, and write a little bit about it. Yeah. Write one phrase about it, and then write another phrase.
Yeah, that's good.
It's
real good, yeah.
Like you just said, anytime I've tried to write something, yeah,
I need to write a
crap.
Hit. Yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
It never turns out.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. Is there anything, you said you've got a collection of songs that you think might be close to making a record. You think you're going to record sometime soon? Anything new coming up for you?
I'm very instinctive and intuitive, and like it's sort of like I'll know when I know, and then I'll just do it.
Yeah.
But as we kind of indicated, like it's a tricky terrain for me right now, so I might need to step up my conscious choosing a little more, and not rely on my instincts, which just haven't been coming through lately.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I know that feeling. Something I'm considering doing in the near term is, instead of trying to tackle a whole record, is just to come in and do one.
do a song.
Do a song.
Yeah, and maybe put it out. Like, I feel like who needs records really? I mean, I like the feeling of a whole body of work, but maybe that's not where we're heading.
Or even just to shake things up.
Yeah.
Come in, do one top to bottom,
Yeah.
best it can be, and then see how I feel after that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know?
Yep.
I can do that. I can do one song.
You can absolutely do one song, yep.
So can you.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm going to include ways for people to contact you and to connect with your music on the show notes on donovanhealth.com under podcasts. I'm going to put your Spotify on there, Facebook, website. Is there any other ways that people could connect with you?
Facebook's probably the best.
Facebook's best.
But or even my website, and just sign up for an email that I send out. That's where you're guaranteed to hear what's going on.
BillDeasy.com?
BillDeasy.com, yep.
It's a DEASY, BillDeasy.com.
Correct.
Well, Bill, it's been a great time here this evening. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Me too.
Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Heck yeah, man, anytime.
I want you to take good care, and I can't wait to hear about the new things that are coming up.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Now, before you go, I'd like to let you know about a free resource I made for you. It's called the Sound Health Newsletter. In it, I share the latest research in music and health in an easy-to-understand form. I also share beginner-friendly music and wellness exercises that you can use every day to feel your best. When you sign up, you also get discounts and first access to all of my sound health products and events. Remember, it's completely free. If you'd like it, just visit donovanhealth.com and enter your name and email address, and I'll start sending you new issues right away.
Tattoo of a bracelet on her wrist, the love of strangers on her Christmas list. She ain't sentimental, she don't like to reminisce. She's a champion of action. You ain't never heard her voice, but that's alright, 'cause you've never seen her face before tonight. But now you see her swaying to the left and to the right, and it rocks your whole foundation, yeah. See her spinning round, blonde hair falling down. You can't hear the sound of your heart breaking, and the love she's taking from you. The song it's making is like a rhapsody in blue, yeah.
While you're on the website, you can also read full transcripts of this show and check out a ton of other valuable resources. If you have any feedback, send me an email to feedback@donovanhealth.com. All the information presented on this show is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Lastly, come and visit me on our Sound Health Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channels. I'd love to see you there. The Sound Health Podcast is produced by OmniVista Health Learning and Donovan Health Solutions. For Sound Health, this is Jim Donovan. See you next time. Take care.